Now at 10, outdated body armor leaving local officers vulnerable to injuries.
This is where all your vital organs are. That's the main source of protection against bullets.
How one local chief tells us the issue slipped through the cracks.
Armed with a handgun and a knife, a disgruntled former employee guns down 5 people.
She saw one on the floor, is all she said, and she kept saying, "My boss is dead."
What we're learning about the victims killed and the grudge police say the shooter had.
Now, this is Fox 30 Action News Jax at 10. Local coverage you can count on.
Local officers potentially exposed by outdated body armor.
An Action News Jax investigation discovered one agency still using expired bulletproof vests. Action News Jax Michael Yoshida is live in Neptune Beach. Michael, you found out their vests should have been replaced years ago.
John, when officers head out onto patrol, they wear vests similar to this one right here. But according to this memo, officers here in Neptune Beach, some of them were wearing vests that had been expired for years.
According to this memo from Neptune Beach Police Chief Richard Pike, 3 officers had vests that had been expired well over 5 years. Monday night, I spoke with the chief about the issue, which he says never put any officer in danger.
Basically, after contacting the manufacturer, the ballistic integrity of the vest does not start breaking down at that time, but it's just the replacement warranty that is expired.
But we did some digging and found manufacturers even warned potential buyers that after expiration, the protection that is offered by the vest may begin to diminish. Monday, Action News Jax crime and safety expert and JSO veteran Ken Jefferson walked me through the dangers of expired vests.
As this weakens, the bullet can eventually go through it. It'll start by penetrating it a little bit deeper.
Monday, the chief asked the city to use forfeiture money to help cover the cost of replacing the vests, which is about $2,600.
The officers have been measured and the vests have been ordered, and we're expecting them any week now.
Because we're talking about the life and death of a vest. That could be the life and death of a person who's wearing that vest.
And ahead at 11 on Fox 30, the changes being made to the police department here in Neptune Beach to prevent this from happening in the future, and how neighboring JSO handles expiring bulletproof vests. Reporting live at Neptune Beach, Michael Yoshida, Fox 30 Action News Jax.
Tonight, we're learning new information about the victims of today's deadly mass workplace shooting in Orlando. Kevin Clark was a devoted father after his wife died in 2010. He had just celebrated his son's high school graduation this week. And this evening, investigators searched the mobile home of the gunman, John Newman Jr. A woman who lives in Newman's neighborhood, who didn't want to be identified, said she always thought something wasn't quite right with Newman's behavior. Deputies say he was a former employee of the business, and deputies believe that he targeted the 5 employees who were killed. Deputies say that he, again, was a disgruntled employee who was fired back in April. He entered his former workplace this morning and opened fire. Investigators say once he heard sirens, he turned the gun on himself. Action News Jax Bridget Matter looked into his troubled past.
We are trying to understand as much about him as we possibly can.
The Orange County Sheriff's Office is working to find out more about John Newman, the gunman who killed 5 of his former co-workers Monday morning. These are the names of those victims: Robert Snyder, Brenda Montanez Crespo, Kevin Clark, Jeffrey Roberts, and Kevin Lawson. It happened at the Fiamma Inc., a manufacturer of RV awnings in Orlando. Newman, he worked here until April of this year. Orange County Sheriff's Office says Newman was a disgruntled employee who targeted his victims.
Most of the victims were shot in the head. Some were shot multiple times.
Newman walked through a back door with a gun and 2 knives. Police say he reloaded his gun at least once. We found an injunction from a man who worked at Fiamma with Newman. The documents reveal in 2014, Newman waited for the man, stalked him, and pounded his head with his fists. Newman then attempted to choke this man with a book bag strap. The injunction was later dropped. But it gives us some insight into the man who police say senselessly targeted people who simply came to work on a Monday morning. Bridget Matter, Fox 30, Action News Jax.
And Newman was an Army veteran who was honorably discharged in 1999. He has been to jail 6 times in Seminole County.
The St. Augustine teen who killed a store clerk during a robbery will now spend the rest of his life in prison. Sergio Morgan Weidman is 17. He was 15 when he shot and killed Malev Desai after he was already given the cash that he had demanded. During today's sentencing, a victim's advocate read a statement from Desai's widow.
We most certainly will never get our Moab back, but seeing them get a life sentence would undoubtedly give our family some closure.
After the murder, Sergio Weidman and Andre Robinson led deputies on a chase through 3 counties. Today, Robinson was found guilty and sentenced to 22 years in prison.
First Alert Doppler HD showing this band of heavy rain and storms heading towards our area. It's expected to make for a rainy next few days. First Alert Chief Meteorologist Mike Burge is in the First Alert Weather Center with how this band will affect the morning drive.
Yeah, it's looking a little messy out there. 5-speed First Alert Doppler HD right now. At first glance, well, all appears to be okay, and it is right now. There are some areas of perhaps sprinkles here and there, but not much. The scattered heavy showers and isolated storms that we had earlier today have since moved on off to the north and east. But let's widen the view. Several things to take into account. Tropical moisture building across South Florida. Strong disturbance south of New Orleans. It's all coming together not far from Jacksonville. Heavy rain is on the way in the Burge bottom line. Set your alarm clock a little bit early for tomorrow morning. Potential for localized flooding. And I'll track the threat for some severe storms, too, and your full 7-day forecast a little later on.
FDLE is investigating 2 separate deadly deputy-involved shootings in Nassau County. They happened just 2 days apart. The first was on Friday on O'Neill Scott Road. The second last night on B Road in Callahan. Deputies say last night around 10, neighbors called with reports of screaming and gunfire. They say when they arrived, 27-year-old Jeremy Lindsay pointed his gun at a deputy. Deputy James Ballard says he saw Lindsay turn a pistol towards him. Ballard shot and killed Lindsay.
When you have someone in the street firing rounds off, you have 3 or 4 calls coming in. You have him making statements, threatening neighbors and threatening to the officers themselves, and they had to engage.
Friday, we told you about another deadly deputy-involved shooting off O'Neill Scott Road. Deputies say Edward Courtney hit a car and took off, and when the victims followed Courtney, he went to ram their car. They say Deputy Brandon Schmidt fired, killing Courtney.
A local man accused of sexual battery on a teenager has been arrested after 2 weeks on the run. Deputies say that Michael Case cut off his ankle monitor and was found more than 1,000 miles away in New York today. Deputies say that Case was going to take a plea on charges of sexual battery against a 14-year-old girl, but skipped town before that happened. He was found walking along the side of the road when he was arrested without incident, a few miles from where he was staying in a tent at a campsite.
New tonight, investigators say a pizza delivery driver fired back at the man who tried to rob him. Police say Priest Jordan went up to the driver on Lem Turner Road Saturday demanding money. The driver said he handed Jordan $91 in cash and his keys. After that, he says Jordan pointed a gun at him and fired several shots. The driver fired back but missed. Jordan was arrested Sunday after a detective who was looking at surveillance recognized him.
Teen girls lured by modeling jobs then sold for sex. The arrest of 2 men highlight a growing trend in Northeast Florida. This is 52-year-old Michael Gallen. Investigators say that he sold as many as 15 underage girls to a Jacksonville man to make child pornography. Action News Jack's Larry Spruill is live in downtown. And Larry, these are girls who thought they were getting the opportunity of a lifetime.
Tanika, that's because they tricked these girls to work in VIP rooms and hotel parties. But once they got hired, they realized that the reality was very different. 2 Florida men, one from Jacksonville, are in federal prison for using underage models to produce pornography. One man recruited girls between the ages of 15 to 17, and the other paid them for photo sessions. But after they were hired, he would often get them to strip or engage in sex acts on video.
I think it's bigger than everyone imagines.
But it's just not talked about, says Kristen Keene with Rethreaded. It's an organization that helps survivors escape the sex trade.
It already exists. It's already happening.
Human trafficking is a $32 billion a year industry and a form of modern-day slavery that usually targets women. The victims are often vulnerable. Between 75 and 95% of prostituted women were sexually abused as children. Keene says the stats are alarming, but the message from her organization will continue to be heard loud and clear.
Like, it's never okay to buy a human being.
Keene, coming up tonight at 11, Keene tells me what should be done to human trafficking to stop that here in Jacksonville. Also, what our crime and safety expert Ken Jefferson says JSO is doing to fight this growing issue. I'll have that story coming up tonight at 11 here on Fox 30. We're live in downtown Jacksonville tonight. Larry Spruill, Fox 30. Action News Jax.
The man who was shot in the back at a local apartment complex has died from his injuries. We first brought you the news of the shooting Sunday. It happened on Flynn Court Road near the Moncrief Village Apartments. 23-year-old Kennard Henley was killed. Police say they do not have any information on a suspect yet.
A Jacksonville-based U.S. Customs and Border Protection crew busted a boat with $31 million worth of cocaine on board. 3 Colombians were arrested during that bust off the coast of Panama City. The boat had 2,425 pounds of cocaine on board.
The Duval County School Board is facing tough decisions that are contingent on whether it gets millions of dollars more from the state. One of the tough calls is whether to cut teacher recruitment programs like Teach for America. House Bill 7069 would force the district to share money with charter schools, including federal Title I funds, which aids schools with a high number of low-income students. The district was hoping it will get an additional $16 million from the state, but even if it does, cuts will still need to be made.
If we do receive the additional $16 million plus later this week with the governor's recommendation of increasing the per student allocation, then we are able to complete the programs that we had thought we would complete for this upcoming year, 17-18. But the message I want parents to know, please call the governor's office.
Well, the school board has a regularly scheduled meeting tomorrow at 6 p.m.
JSO is looking for the driver of this truck that was seen speeding away from a local daycare after crashing through it. We slowed the video down so you can see the damage that driver left behind. Now, no one was hurt, but again, there is significant damage to the daycare. It happened at Little Temple's Child Care. This is on the corner of Shad Road and Florida Mining Boulevard. A white truck reverses and then speeds down the road, leaving a trail of destruction. It was raining when that driver hit that business.
I see wreckage. I think something accident happened. But after customer told me somebody ran over daycare.
If you know who was behind the wheel or anything about this case, call JSO.
From the First Alert Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Mike Burris. It's going to rain. It really comes down to timing it and how much potential is there for some pretty heavy rainfall amounts, very heavy amounts between now and about Thursday. Time it out for you and how much to expect in the First Alert forecast.
Next at 10, no mask and no machine. The one-of-a-kind treatment for sleep apnea that could help you get a good night's rest.
The protesters arrested in Jacksonville after a demonstration turned violent are pushing for change from JSO.
This does not end here.
Who they teamed up with to call for a citizens review board.